March 10, 1943, the Mid-Atlantic Gap, 400 miles west of the Hebrides. Inside the pressurized, diesel-stinking steel tube of U-660, Kapitän Lieutenant Götz von Briesen feels the subtle, rhythmic vibration of the engines, the heartbeat of his hunter. Below, the hydrophones sing a steady metallic symphony of distant screws. On the surface, the Atlantic is a dark, churning canvas of opportunity. Geleitzug ONS 167, Briesen murmurs, tapping the worn chart with a greasy pencil. They are slow, poorly protected. We will hit them hard before dawn. For Briesen and the rest of the German U-boat High Command, this is the happy time reborn. Wolf packs, coordinated groups of submersibles, are tearing through Allied convoys, sinking tonnage faster than the Allies can possibly replace it. They call this the Mid-Atlantic Gap, a vast 800-mile stretch where Allied land-based air cover cannot reach. Here, the U-boat is the absolute predator. On the bridge, the Wachauffizier reports seeing a dim silhouette, a merchant ship, heavy laden, lagging behind the convoy formation. Confident. Target is a deep-draft tanker, Herr Kapitän. Too beautiful to miss. Briesen smiles, a thin, cold expression. The conviction is absolute. The U-boat is the ultimate weapon, and Britain is a starving island. Admiral Dernitz's prediction of victory through attrition feels assured. The sinking of the tanker will be U-660's 23rd kill. They fire, they watch, and the resulting explosion is a brief, beautiful blossom of fire on the horizon. The Allied escorts, mostly aging destroyers, are clumsy and predictable. They drop depth charges, but they are blind in this vast darkness. The Wolfpack slips away, laughing at the impotence of the surface ships. But even as the U-boat crew celebrate below, something new is stirring across the waves. The Allies are not just building more ships, they're changing the rules of the game. In laboratories and shipyards, technologies are emerging that will turn the U-boat's hunting ground into a death trap. Briesen, however, is insulated by his success. His arrogance is justified by the score. He knows only the old enemies, the predictable patterns. He believes the Atlantic belongs to him. May 23, 1943, south of Greenland. Convoy SC-130. This time the patrol feels wrong. U-660 and 3 other boats from the Wolfpack Fink have been stalking the convoy for 48 hours, but the conditions are different. The weather is rougher, but the patrol line is unusually quiet. Briesen is accustomed to having hours of unchallenged approach time in the Mid-Atlantic Gap. Today, the moment they made contact, the air changed. Strained. Air contact, Herr Kapitän. The lookout's voice is strained, bordering on panic. Low flying, fast. Not a Coastal Command 4 engine. Smaller. Briesen scrambles to the bridge. The aircraft, a Grumman Avenger torpedo bomber, is impossibly close. It shouldn't be here. The distance is too great for any traditional land-based fighter or bomber. As the alarm is screamed and the U-boat begins its crash dive, the Avenger releases its payload. A string of 4 depth charges brackets the hull. The shockwave is immense, slamming the men against the bulkheads, knocking out the lights. U-660 plunges violently, listing hard to starboard. When the emergency lighting flickers back on, the damage is severe. Ruptured seals, flooding in the torpedo room, and the hydrophone is useless, demanding. Where did it come from? Briesen demands, wiping oil and sweat from his face. Impossible. We are 700 miles from Newfoundland. Later, after limping away and surfacing under the cover of night to effect repairs, the truth arrives. Via coded radio transmission from Befehlshaber der U-Boote, BDU, Admiral Dernitz himself. The report is chilling, unprecedented. The Allies had introduced the CVE, carrier vessel escort, nicknamed Jeep Carriers or Baby Carriers. Ships like the USS Bogue and HMS Archer were small, relatively cheap, but packed a decisive punch. They carried enough radar-equipped anti-submarine aircraft to patrol and protect the entire mid-Atlantic gap from the center of the convoy. The air cover Breezen had always feared had suddenly sprouted legs in the middle of the ocean. The psychological impact was immediate. The predator was now being hunted by air and sea simultaneously. The impunity of the wolf pack was dead. For the first time, Breezen looks at his watch officer and sees fear, not ambition, reflected in the man's eyes. The sea had suddenly become too small. June 15th, 1943, northwest of the Azores. The Hunter-Killer Patrol. Captain Lieutenant Breezen is now obsessed with avoiding detection. The new orders from BDU are grim. Avoid direct confrontation with escort groups and seek out unescorted stragglers. The happy hunting days of March feel like a fantasy. Now, it is a war of survival. This time, the destroyer is not clumsy. It is the USS Bogue's escort, the destroyer escort USS Croatan, DE-258. The Croatan is faster, smaller, and, most terrifyingly, equipped with HF/DF, high-frequency direction finding, or Huff-Duff. This technology, entirely unknown to the average U-boat crewman, pinpoints the moment Breezen's radio operator dares to transmit a short, desperate contact report back to headquarters. The Allies now have eyes that can see radio waves. Within minutes, the Croatan is on top of U-660. But it is not just the ship, it is a coordinated attack. An overhead Avenger, guided by the destroyer's coordinates, drops a newly introduced sonobuoy, a floating listening device, and an experimental weapon, the Fido acoustic homing torpedo. The U-boat crew hears the terrifying rhythmic pinging of the destroyer's active sonar. But worse is the sound of the torpedo itself, a whirring, metallic noise that seems to be intelligently searching for the submarine's own propeller sounds. Breezen orders violent, evasive maneuvers, diving deep, attempting to kick up noise and confuse the sonar. He listens, terrified, as the American depth charges rain down not randomly, but in precise patterns. Hedgehog charges that explode only on contact, eliminating the old near-miss concept. One spread of hedgehog charges detonates not near, but right above the stern. The shock is deafening. U-660's pressure hull groans ominously. The stern planes are jammed. Water pours into the electric motor room. The boat is heavy, sinking uncontrollably. Breezen understands in a flash of chilling clarity. This is not a defensive action. This is a tactical unit designed solely to destroy subrooms. This hunter-killer group is a perfect, efficient engine of doom. They were not merely fighting convoys. They were fighting the entire logistical might of the U.S. Navy and the British Admiralty, which had adapted with shocking speed. He gives the fatal order. Blow the ballast tanks and prepare to scuttle. The U-boat war for him is brutally, suddenly over. August 1944, APOW camp in Arizona, United States. Captain Lieutenant Breezen, now stripped of his rank insignia and wearing the rough uniform of a prisoner of war, stands beside a barbed wire fence staring out at the vast, incomprehensible landscape of America. He is no longer concerned with sinking tankers, but with the shocking reality of his defeat. He speaks with another captured commander, Oberleutnant Karl Herbig, a survivor of an encounter with a different American destroyer escort group. "They were not hunting us, Karl," Breezen says, the defeat heavy in his voice. "They were sweeping us, like insects." Herbig nods grimly. "It is the air cover that ruins us. Do you know what they told me? Those airmen do not just rely on radar goods. They have a device called Magnetic Anomaly Detection, MAD. It smells the steel of the boat from the air, even if we are shallow. The sheer scale of the American commitment is what breaks the German commanders. They had fought a war of scarcity and rigid, centralized control. Here they see a nation that throws resources at a problem until it is drowned in material. Brisen sees endless trains chugging past the camp, carrying tanks, jeeps, and mountains of supplies that dwarf what the entire German Sixth Army received at Stalingrad. But the final crushing shock comes not from a weapon, but from the industrial indifference to loss. A few weeks prior, Brisen read a newspaper article provided by the camp commandant, a casual mention of the Allies producing dozens of escort carriers. The USS Bogue class, the ships that hunted him down, were not rare, valuable vessels. They were mass-produced, expendable tools in an endless assembly line. The escort carrier, which had ended the reign of the U-boat in the mid-Atlantic, was built so fast and in such numbers that Brisen realized the Allies didn't just win the Battle of the Atlantic. They made its continuation mathematically impossible for Germany. The war at sea was not lost in a single battle or due to a brilliant tactic. It was lost in the vast echoing silence of American shipyards, where innovation and sheer tonnage created an impenetrable wall of steel, radar, and sound-seeking death. The U-boat, once the apex predator, had been casually hunted into extinction by a nation whose industrial power they had tragically underestimated.